Is the Babyface Pro FS worth $1,000? I've spent a lot of time overlooking this interface. It's kind of ugly, it's expensive, but I'm giving it a shot, and I have been putting it through its paces as part of a new series I'm doing comparing 3 highly renowned audio interfaces. Some things I'm pleasantly surprised by with this interface, other things make absolutely no sense. Let's talk about it. I also want to say real quick, big shout out to Zounds for helping out with this series. If you want to check out the Babyface Pro FS for yourself, or you need any gear at all, I'll have links in the description that'll take you there. So in case you missed the first impressions video comparing the Babyface Pro to the Apollo Twin and Zen Quadro, I'll give you a brief rundown, specifically regarding the RME, of course. My first impression of the RME Babyface Pro FS was not great. Even after spending some more time with it, I stand by the fact that it's kind of ugly, and I'm not exclusively talking about the cosmetics of this interface. The shape and format of this interface makes it so that cables are sticking out of almost every side of the interface. I do like that it includes a USB MIDI breakout cable and a hard shell case to carry it all. I also like that the interface feels really solid. It definitely has the heft of a nicer audio interface. But I had a terrible time getting this interface to work with my M1 MacBook due to some weird driver security issues that I've never dealt with before, even with the other 2 interfaces that I was trying out. I eventually got it figured out, but I had to boot up my computer in recovery mode and then disable some security settings. It took me forever and multiple reboots to actually get it to work, but the RME website does have some info about this. It's just not very easy to find. But all of that aside, the Babyface Pro does have some features that are quite impressive. Firstly, this is a 12-in, 12-out audio interface. You get 2 XLR inputs with XLint mic pre's, 2 line inputs, 2 XLR outputs, which is interesting to see on an interface of this size. You also get 2 headphone outputs, 1 1/4 inch and 1 1/8 inch, which is cool to see as well. Then you have ADAT in and out, which gives you an additional 8 ins and 8 outs when using something like this ADA 8200 that I have here. You also get MIDI in and out, which I think is overlooked on a lot of interfaces like this, so it's nice to see that here. The 2 mic pre's boast a 113.7 dB signal to noise ratio. I can attest to this because I'm currently using the Universal Audio SD1, which you may know is a very gain hungry microphone. I normally use an inline mic booster with this microphone, but I did do some testing without the mic booster in this interface. I even cranked up the gain to see if I could hear some noise, and it was incredibly clean. You can also monitor with latency-free effects using the included TotalMix software, which I'll talk about in a minute. But first I want to let you know about today's sponsor, AeroZoom. For many people in home studios, acoustic treatment is the last place you want to spend your money. But there's no denying that acoustic treatment is extremely important when it comes to minimizing reflections when tracking or listening through your monitors. There are many expensive and/or DIY options for treating your studio, but AeroZoom makes it easy and affordable for those who are not interested in shelling out thousands of dollars on acoustic treatment. I actually just received the Diffuse Pro panels from AeroZoom. You can see them back there behind my guitars, and they were super easy to install. You just peel off the backing, make sure you have a good clean surface to stick it to, hold it there for a bit, and you're done. They also include some adhesive tape in case you need some more reinforcement. Even as somebody who has more expensive acoustic treatment, AeroZoom has provided me with affordable panels that not only contribute to the sonic quality of my studio, but complement the style and feel of it as well. If that sounds like something that would benefit your home studio, click the link at the top of my description and put in the code AZ-Caleb for a 10% discount. And thank you AeroZoom for sponsoring this video. Now going back to the RME Babyface Pro FS, let's talk about the TotalMix software. Honestly, I'm not crazy about TotalMix. I've used lots of different companion software, and this one doesn't seem to make a ton of sense in execution, but it does deliver on the features itself. You get latency-free processing, monitoring, and effects on every channel using the TotalMix software, which is really cool. But this is done in a different way than you'd see on something like the Universal Audio Apollo series. In TotalMix, you get a built-in 3-band EQ for each of your input and output channels, even the ADAT channels. You also get what is essentially an effects bus inside of TotalMix that gives you the ability to send any of the inputs into the included reverb and echo effects, which you can filter in via the effects return on any of the outputs. This is cool because you could add a little bit of reverb to the vocalist headphone mix without affecting any of the other inputs or outputs. And all of this is powered by the Babyface Pro FS, so you don't have to worry about latency due to your computer's limited resources. TotalMix is a powerful software. I just think it's a little difficult to get around. And realistically, I personally don't need some of those extra features that are available in TotalMix, even though they are pretty cool. By the way, if you haven't hit that like button yet, now is a great time to do so, but only if you're actually enjoying this video. Now let's jump into some pros and cons about the Babyface Pro FS. I'll start with the pros. I don't want to understate how nice the build quality of the Babyface Pro FS is. It's really solid. And I didn't mention it up top, but there is a huge manual that comes with this interface, which is very cool. I know that many of us have gone digital and prefer PDFs and such, but if nothing else, this shows me that there's a lot to the Pro FS and there are a lot of resources available for getting around it. I like the metering on this interface, and I do like some of the things you can do directly on the interface, but I'm also going to talk some about that in the cons section. It has MIDI in and out, which I feel like a lot of mid to high ticket interfaces neglect for some reason. It's good to have. The preamps on this interface sound incredible. I mentioned earlier that I tried to crank up the gain to hear some noise and it was super clean. I like what TotalMix does. It's impressive that you can do so much with it, especially the DSP stuff. Lastly, and this may or may not be of any interest to you, I just thought it was pretty cool when I discovered it. You can operate the Pro FS without it being plugged into your computer. I discovered this by accident, but I'm running everything in my studio into a MacBook so that I can take my projects on the go, which I do pretty much every day. One day I walked into the studio to see that the Babyface was still powered on, even though I hadn't plugged in my MacBook yet. It was receiving power from the powered USB hub that I always have plugged in. But anyway, just out of curiosity, I reached over to my CP73 and hit a couple of keys and discovered that I was able to hear it coming through the interface and out of my monitors. And from there, I could still adjust my input and output levels on the interface without my computer connected. And this doesn't always work on other interfaces, so that was a pleasant surprise, especially for somebody like me who has several instruments, and it's nice when you can just sit down at one and start playing without having to boot up a software to do so. Now let's talk about some cons. I think this interface is ugly, and you may not care about that. I have what feels like a mess of cables on my desk, and it's just the stuff that I always have on my desk. It just looks messier with the Babyface Pro FS. On a similar note, and I didn't mention this in the first impressions video, but I do not like the lack of physical controls on the Babyface Pro FS. I know that part of this has to do with my limited experience with the Babyface Pro FS, but when I want to do something like adjust input gain, I want to just reach over to the gain knob and adjust the input gain for that channel. But on the Babyface, I have to reach over and do a couple of clicks and make sure I've selected the right input and then turn the dial and adjust my gain. And same thing with my outputs. I don't want to have one dial that controls all of my inputs and all of my outputs, especially as I'm coming from the Audient ID22, which has a ton of physical controls on board. Another con was the initial setup, but I'll also say, do some research on the compatibility of your computer beforehand, and you should at least know what you're getting into with the setup of this interface. I didn't do that, and I dealt with it, and now it works, so just be aware of that. Also, and this isn't just my opinion, lots of people share this opinion, TotalMix is not very straightforward. So while it is a powerful piece of software for these RME interfaces, much of it makes no sense, to a point where people have made entire YouTube mini courses on how to use TotalMix. It's a powerful piece of software, but I just think you should be prepared to invest a lot of time getting familiar with it if you're going to dive into this ecosystem. So is the RME Babyface Pro FS worth $1,000? I could see this being worth $1,000 if you do this professionally and make enough use out of the RME ecosystem and TotalMix to justify not only the money, but the time required to really get familiar with it. For this to be worth it for me, I would have to really love the TotalMix stuff and really commit to getting familiar with the shortcuts on the interface itself. That's just not me right now. There are several interfaces out there around $1,000 that offer more I/O, monitor controls, and physical knobs and switches for input parameters. That is where I personally gravitate. Obviously, you should decide for yourself if the things that I mentioned in this video matter to you, and then use that to inform your decision. But there's still time to change my mind about the RME Babyface Pro FS as I continue to compare it to the Universal Audio Apollo Twin and Antelope Audio Zen Quadro. So make sure and leave a comment down below if you have any questions or things you want to see in this series. And if you haven't already, make sure and subscribe so you don't miss those videos coming out in the coming weeks. And as always, thanks for hanging out.